can tell our friends, and they can have my things when we're dead. But we gonna live forever. We gonna live forever.
Welcome to the Boys Cast. Ryan Long, Daniel Polish, Chuck.
What's happening?
I got to make a correction first. There's always a bunch of corrections, but the
Unlike those lying scumbags at the New York Times, we make corrections.
yeah, and they don't go on the back pages. They're front and foremost.
At the very start of the episode, because we have a thing called integrity,
Yeah,
Ryan.
well, Dude Looks Like a Lady is not made for the movie Mrs. Doubtfire.
I thought you said it was a different one.
No, I said Dude Looks Like a Lady was made for Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh.
And a million people were like, that was about Vince Neil, allegedly, because Vince Neil looks like a girl, and it was made years before.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying a different one was for Miss Doubtfire. The one before that was for Miss Doubtfire.
No, I was that one for sure.
Oh, okay.
And there's many times where I'll say things and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's true.
I wonder if it took them for Mrs. Doubtfire a while to get. They were like looking for songs, and then they're like, was that you think that was like instant Dude Looks Like a Lady? Or
Yeah, I think they wrote the movie around the song. Now that I know the information, and also by the way, I've been fucking getting killed in general off of my lack of being able to spell and stuff like that. I don't know if you saw the Trump.
I mean, I've been working on a script with you.
Was it bad?
Yeah. It's fucking insane. It's like I had to transpose this like chicken scratch into this like script and then also edit the other part of the script.
Well, I did this video, Trump blogger withdrawal, and I spelled withdrawal improperly. And even saying it now, I'm not sure which one was right and which was wrong, but I spelt it. I think I spelt it with
AU?
AWL. I didn't know there was an A.
Oh,
withdrawal. Yeah. And another thing, I said the Caroline show's postponed, reasons not due to me, and I spelled it due.
Oh, yeah, you always spelled
100 people
D-O.
messaged me that. So.
Oh, D-O, you always spelled do. Yeah.
Anyways, it's getting killed on all that
You
stuff.
spell beat, like it beat someone up.
I don't know
like,
what the right beat
like
is.
the vegetable.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking loopy.
Yeah, that's
but
fine. I mean, whatever. You don't have to be good at everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I can't be a fucking master at smashing chicks.
And fucking spelling and grammar.
And also spell their address right when I'm sending them home in the Uber on their phone.
On their phone. Correct.
But, okay, so officially, before we get into the stuff, officially, for real this time, the Boys Cast is going to move back to its own YouTube channel. So this is going to happen in 2 weeks. And this time, for realsies, no take-backs.
No
I already
take-backs.
tried that. And then follow the page, follow the clip page. Also,
Rest assured, too, that if you do take that back, I will be delivering some
taking it back.
punches.
That's
I will be delivering the punches, though. The arm
the
punches
final
will be
one.
coming.
And the Patreon, the new episode every week, and a bunch of different people. And Danny you said that there's a potential that maybe an extra thing on the Patreon is once a month doing the stock tips.
Stock tips or a sports show.
So, because you recommended Mud's Capital.
Mud's, yeah.
And I'm on 10K.
Oh, buddy, I'm fucking, this morning, so I had this company, Clover Health. This will just be it's like a spat, one of Chamath's SPACs that got like destroyed. It was like 14, so I don't know, should I need to explain the whole SPAC thing?
No.
Okay, so anyways, it was at $14, then it was $7, and I was like, I think this is about as low as it's going to go. So I bought some. And then Wall Street Bets picked it up, being like, this is their next thing.
And you're cooking.
Clover, right? So it went from 7, and then today it went from, I had it at 7, it went to 11. I had a pretty big position. It went to $11. And so I sold, and it had been all over the map. It had like crazy volume. And then I sold out of it because Muds, which is Topps baseball card company, which I like made so much money off of baseball cards in the past year because of the the CLCT or whatever. And then it dipped today to like probably like $2 lower than the high of yesterday. And I was like, fuck it. So I sold all my clove and I bought even more Muds.
Well, this is the kind of stuff that you might be able to hear on the Patreon month to month if that little spiel did something for you.
Yeah, if it did something
if you were perked up by that little...
If you're perked up. The problem with the monthly stock tips, though, is that
it's not going to work. So you're going to have to do a daily one.
Well, the problem is they go, hey, I bought Muds 2 weeks ago, and they're like, yeah, it's 30%
so you're going to
higher.
have to probably do a daily one, I think.
A daily
That's what's going to be coming on the Patreon, the daily. Before even that, though, so I don't know if you've seen this, but because... So they're opening New York back up, which is solid or whatever. But
July 1st, fully open.
Yeah, but it's so funny that because Fauci released his thing. We've been talking about this, the idea of, and not the first person to mention this, but the idea is like, even if you're vaccinated, like, don't leave your house.
Yeah, don't, two masks.
So Fauci
3.
they did this article, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he goes, Fauci did like a little character piece because they do pieces on Fauci like he's a superstar. You know what I mean?
Of
like,
course.
What's Jennifer Lopez wearing? Like, what's Fauci's afternoons look like?
It's crazy he hasn't hosted SNL, to be honest.
That's where he's basically at. He's 100 years old. And this is what he says. He goes, how Fauci's behavior. So if you're wondering if you get the vaccinations, how your behavior should change. And it says, he goes, I haven't had a day off in a year and 3 months. This is what he said. So he's out of the gate. You go, bad person to ask about what's his social life look like. He goes, I haven't done anything ever. He goes, still not. But then he says, whenever we would get together before I had the vaccine, we would do it outside, freezing our butts off, wearing a mask. So this is having a dinner or a drink with family or friends outside on his deck. So mid-January, he's outside. And by the way, the reason why, so you have this guy that's like 90 years old. You know, his whole thing, remember the Bernie Sanders thing where I go, he's got to be cheap because there's this whole thing. So obviously Fauci is not going to be caught at a rave.
No,
regardless.
No. He is, but I mean, I will give it to him that at least he has like the integrity to not be like a piece of shit.
Well,
like
yeah,
Newsom,
I guess you
like,
could say it that
you're
way.
not
I say
allowed
it the
to
other
do-
way. You have no choice.
Well, he has no choice, but at least he's like talking his book and being like, you're not seeing him do any of this stuff.
He's working
versus
4
the-
months a year. And
Versus
he's
the
having
other pieces of shit who are like Newsom, who's like, you know, French Laundry being like, oh, you're not allowed to do this. And then you're like doing it.
I'm not really with you on that. I go,
wait, you'd rather him being like, hey, is Fauci fucking like,
I don't.
just
I
at
think
a
that's
rave?
irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's living his things or not, I think he wasn't doing shit anyway. Gavin
Oh,
Newsom fancies
right.
himself a cool guy. Is
Agreed,
your grandfather? Was he like?
Yeah,
did he make
yeah,
that
yeah.
many changes?
No, I don't know.
So my point
Well,
is-
he's dead, so no.
yeah, exactly.
Same old status quo for Grandpa.
Safe boy Danny, they unburied their grandfather and then
Put
put
him-
a mask back on him and then reburied him just to be double safe.
Just to be double
Just to
safe.
make sure that in the afterlife that he was
Yeah.
protected. Well, my point was,
Do you think anybody got buried who died of COVID and they're like, bury them with a mask on?
yeah, they would have.
That's what he
wanted
would have
that.
wanted.
They would. He would have definitely wanted that. So he's got no choice. Second of all, well, before that, it'd be pretty funny if Fauci was your neighbor because you basically can't do shit. Imagine like
Imagine
Fauci's-
you're a Trump supporter and Fauci's your neighbor.
and you want to have a party or just like a college kid.
But probably like in March of last year, you were like, sick. Fucking Fauci's working with Trump. He's my neighbor. And then like a month later, you're like putting shit in a bag and lighting it on fire on his fucking.
Well, you bring a girl over, Fauci comes over. Excuse me, we're in a pandemic. So he's 90. So he's outside of January. It's freezing his ass off, and he's having dinner with his friends. Eventually, the friends would just be like, let's stop eating with Fauci.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, you think the dinner party invites were drying up for Fauci?
I do
He's like-
think so.
He's like, people are fucking getting my face tattooed on their arms, but nobody's inviting me to dinner anymore.
who would want to go? He's like, where are we doing it? We're actually on an igloo. Oh, inside the igloo? No. We actually sit on the igloo. We make our own igloos and sit on top of them.
I don't know if that's safe.
But I mean, a million people have said this, but you go, if you want people to get the fucking vaccine, stop making it, once you get the vaccine, by the way, the only thing different is now you don't have to wear the mask when you're having sex with your wife. That's it. That's the
Crazy
only
that they
thing
even
you-
had to come out yesterday and be like, yeah, you don't need to wear vaccinated people don't need to wear a mask outside.
That's so nice of them.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dad.
Yeah.
And then he goes, the biggest shift that him and his neighbors have finally moved the party indoors. So once he got vaccinated, he says, we feel very comfortable in the house with no mask. So he stopped wearing his mask in the house now, this is Fauci and his wife, and we can have a physical contact and things like that. But for now, he still won't eat indoors at a restaurant or go to a movie theater. So you're 90, you're not doing those things anyway. But it's also like, yes, you're the safest guy in the world because your thing is I'm the safe guy. So the idea that like everyone's saying, look, even Fauci won't go to a movie theater. And he's the guy. It's like, no, it's not even Fauci. With the guy whose whole deal is I'm the safest guy in the world and I'm in charge of the safety. He's like, I'm not going to go to a movie. Doesn't. It's like, yeah, Fauci probably also has sex with his wife with 3 condoms on, even though she's 95 years old.
You think he's still giving it to her?
I don't know. I
Maybe
don't know if he feels
that's
safe to
excuse.
do
Maybe
that.
he's just tired of fucking having to fuck his wife. So he goes, honey, like, we got to be super cautious now with the pandemic. No, like this was his out from ever having to fuck his old wife ever again.
That's the deal.
Yeah, he goes,
No one else thinks it's
pandemic.
hilarious if you fucking, you know how they have all the minority owned places,
Mm-hmm.
and you know all the people that a lot of the people
Like
that
BET?
what
Like
yeah
BET?
like BT, but you can order if you order a sub, you can make sure that like
Yeah,
a black
yeah,
guy
yeah,
prepared
yeah.
it. The thing there's like so much that was just making me laugh about it because first of all, we know so many people that are into all that kind of stuff that are pieces of shit. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So just the idea that it makes it so much funnier when you now have to complain you essentially, you're like, oh, I wanted this to be a black guy. And you're like, but you complain every single time. So so you're like, well, I just want it to be a black guy that I'm calling to complain because they didn't put the right condiments on it.
Yeah, excuse me, can we get a black person to pick up?
Yeah. So you're like, oh, I only like to use minority. It's like, you're a terrible customer though.
You know what though? I do get a bit of it. Like I'll give you the other side of it. Is
you only use minority on prostitutes.
No.
You like brown dudes.
Absolutely. But when we were in Miami, me and my girl went to the food court in the mall or whatever. We ate there one time, and then she got like something, and then I went to the jerk place, which is like black owned.
The jerk store you went to.
The jerk store population.
And they said we were actually selling.
We're all out of you. But I went to the chicken place, and I got it, and then I gave her a hard time because she's like, "Why'd you go there?" I'm like, "Oh, because I support
minority
black owned businesses."
Yeah.
And then I like really was like, I get where people fucking not that I was
you
actually
felt cool about it.
I didn't actually feel cool about it, but I get where people
they
go, yeah, like I'm like eating this meal and I'm supporting a minority.
That's really nice.
Like literally, the person who owns that place is a million. First off, the person who owns that place is a millionaire. It's like a fucking giant chain of things.
But then you have to go yell at them and fucking tell them, you forgot to put my fucking...
Like 95% the person who owns that jerk place in the mall is a Trump supporter.
Yeah. Also, it's like I guess the owner, but it's like the people that work there too. There is that element of... It's that other thing of, I only hire minority cleaning ladies. It's, the person who prepares my food for me, I'm doing such a service. A Latino man will be making my falafel. That's...
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about the free speech stuff last week or the censorship, and everyone sort of sent me their takes or whatever. And again, I don't think I'm some expert on it. I think I'm just more close to it probably because it's our world or whatever. But I had an insight that I thought was
funny
interesting.
if you just went and just unilaterally shut down the whole message board. You go, how do you like that for censorship, people? Message board shut down until you learn your lessons.
Well, everyone's got the answers to all these problems, and I go, this is what I think, and everyone goes, well, actually, you're wrong about that. I go, okay, sure, well, whatever. You're all the answers in the world. Run for president. Yeah. But I go. Sometimes I get these little tidbits where I'm closer. Like even the idea of going to, if we have lots of friends that, own some of these big companies, right? And then you'll see all the chatter online, then you can just ask the guy or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes with insiders, with comedy club owners or whatever, but I have a little inside thing that I thought was interesting. So I have a guy that runs this whole Facebook business, right? And he goes, so since in the last month, Facebook and all these companies announced they're lightening up on the censorship. So they're basically saying all of the misinformation stuff, all the deleting the accounts and everything, we're lighting up. And the obvious first impression is to say, well, yeah, because they were trying to get Trump in, and Trump out, and now that he's out, they're like, job done, say whatever you want. That would be the obvious thing, but it's not that simple. So while there is a part of the media and the politicians aren't grilling them as hard, what actually is happening is those companies, their fucking traffic is way down.
Oh yeah, Facebook came out with their earnings yesterday.
Exactly,
but they're printing fucking money.
They're printing money.
But the thing is, on Facebook, their traffic was way down. Instagram, their growth was like bananas.
But my point is, on some of those sites, they got rid of. They're like, we're gonna get rid of the families yelling at each other topics.
Yeah,
the stuff that's breaking up families.
They just put America on a timeout for like a year, and then they're like, timeout's over.
Well, but the reason the timeout's over is because their business model fucking needs people to be yelling at each other.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it this way. It's like, we know like our friend Matt or whatever who had this like hard times thing. It's like they would post these videos that were the videos you were making would be like 5 million views.
Yeah.
And then all of us.
Well, they choked it. That was a bait and switch. That was a little different.
But I'm saying just in that sense, you're like, yeah, they're serving ads on those videos. So they just limited like an ad, like a video that would have got, 6 million.
Yes.
They're now gets to serve way less ads on that.
And people were spending less time on the site because people don't stay on they like, some people like the puppy videos, but you know what people really like? Murder your dad. Or
man, I used to spend like Facebook was like really used to suck you in. You see all these like, hey, here's this random video, and
Facebook's for Fauci'S.
Basically,
for 9-year-olds.
It's for old people. But it's like they got rid of that whole thing where you can just like stumble upon all this random shit. TikTok does that now, where you stumble upon.
They got rid of it all. Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting because the initial thing I would have definitely thought is that this was like some political thing that everyone wanted to get Trump out, but it's really they're like, fine, we'll censor everyone. Then once they did, they were like, wait a second, this is our whole business model is people yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Well,
so They're going to bring it back until the next person they don't like comes into power.
Well, yeah, I guess. But speaking of this, so I have an article on some things to talk about, but I thought that I should mention, this is pretty funny to me. So I did that interview on Fox, right? And it's like, for anyone who thinks that these places aren't, garbage, because, a lot of people in the world are like, CNN's the truth and Fox a liar. Like Fox, they tell it like it is, vice versa. And maybe there's a few people at each, there's maybe like a few guys where you go, okay, that guy, out of 1,000 or whatever. But so there was a whole hoopla about it. But I'll tell you, just the start, this is what happened. And I've talked about it on this podcast where I'm like, I don't like doing those interviews because they pigeonhole, you say whatever you say.
You're there for a purpose.
You're there for a purpose.
To serve them.
And they're scumbags, yes. But I did it because someone who was auditioning there was very helpful to me when I first moved here. So some of these people that were helpful to me when I first moved here,
you're a
it was kind of like a favor.
Sure.
And they asked me to do more, and I said no, but I could do the interview or whatever, right? That's what I said. And this is what I said to them. And I've told people, I go, there's a lot of interviews where I go, I don't want to do it because they fucking, they clickbait the title. They make it seem like you don't want to say something you didn't say. And they try to, so I want to read the thing and show what these people did. And then I'll say my opinion on it. But and it's pretty fucking hilarious. I go, hey guys, I'm down to do the interview. And this is my phone number. I do have a request though, if I'm going to do it, because I don't do these very often. If you decide to put out a digital clip, I don't want you to do something clickbait that doesn't really represent what I say, especially not about woke culture, because that always gets misrepresented. I find people always title stuff like, Ryan Long destroys woke culture, or like whatever, right? So if you can agree to that, I'll do it. And they said, yes.
Right.
Title, comedian Ryan Long stands up to woke outrage by making jokes at critics' expense, the impact of cancel culture on comedy. And let me just say why I have such a problem with these people, because you might be thinking, well, why not? Like, what's so bad about that, right? The problem is all of these places, and countercultures always get, co-opted by media places. But what these places like to do is they do the same. They all do the same thing. They want to paint you as their victim. The same way that fucking left-wing places bring you on and they go, it must be so fucking hard being a fat man, or whatever they.
Correct. It is.
being a man of size, Daniel Paul.
Man of size.
That must be tough life for you.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, whatever. Like some things are hard, some things are not.
You're like, wait, so what does this have to do about the Yankees game tonight? And they're like,
and then
you're like a Yankee super fan, and they bring you on. Like, it must be hard being a man of size. You're like,
I
thought you were interviewing about the A-Rod stuff.
And then they say, A-Rod fan discriminated against because he's overweight.
Like, what?
That's what they do, right?
Yeah.
So they try to paint you as a victim. They go, and you watch they do this to everyone, but they go, and this is why the mainstream, all these mainstream people are so, their format's falling apart, which is kind of what I say, but they go, they want you to be a victim, and they go, you can't do comedy anymore. And I go, no, you can. I go, I'm currently doing comedy. I'm currently very successful.
You can't do comedy
doing well.
Is the worst take. It's
the worst take.
Only because we've been saying for 5 years that people are like, oh, this whole woke stuff's making comedy so much worse. And you're like, no, it's actually kind of making it better.
It's fine. Yeah.
It's like, it's not making it worse.
Yes, it sucks. If you were to boil down what the
it's made some faction of comedians way worse for sure.
It fried some people's brains.
Yeah. Absolutely. But for the overall state of comedy, it's fine.
It's kind of fun.
It just reordered it.
It just reordered it. And it's this stuff where they can't fucking have a nuanced opinion is the reason why, like, I think the industry's just missing what's going on.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of great people making a lot of great stuff and a lot of great people are watching it and they're just missing it.
Yeah.
And my point isn't like, poor me. My point is like, ha ha ha. That's me. Do you not think I'm laughing? Now,
Ryan, what do you think about Chad?
Ha!
It's great. It's lovely.
But yeah, I'm like a fairly positive guy.
Yeah.
So they want you to say that, and then that's the problem with the media is they can't do nuance. And then there's also something hilarious about being on a fucking live interview for whatever millions of people or whatever, and then them kind of, the idea being, you can't say anything. And I'm like, can I swear right now? Oh, interesting.
Weird.
Do you know what I mean? You're like, these people, everyone's trying to tell you what to say.
FTC
I'm like,
overlords.
your producer just told me I can't swear 4 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't. He told me I can't refer to your audience members as queers. That's weird. That's not really a swear word.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that kind of have this conversation. I've heard it online a lot. And I sort of argue the same. You know how words like liberal and feminist and all those things changed?
Yeah.
And a lot of people like the Brett Weinsteins in the world, they're very, I think this is a lot of the problem with a lot of people right now is words sort of change and become something new and people don't want to adapt their identity. So their idea is, you know, everyone's wrong about what like a liberal is, or, you know, I know girls, they'll be like, well, I'm still a feminist. I don't agree with all that stuff, but I'm the traditional sense of what it is. And you go, okay, but you can just be arguing that all the time. And it's the same.
A famous argument for that was Harvey Weinstein. He goes, yeah, no used to mean yes. And then the fucking world changed, and all of a sudden, no meant no.
Yeah, but you know what?
Times.
Do you think there was anyone that was like in the closet gay and got caught having sex with a dude, and his wife was calling him gay, and then there were like women and men, and there's no difference.
There's
and
no
then he's like,
difference.
"See, babe,"
He goes, and we're back.
and we're back. But yeah, those guys. It's
Yeah,
like,
a
let
lot
it
of
go.
a lot
Let
of
it
the
go.
people are like, I'm a liberal, but now, which
Well,
never really like existed.
because those words change so much, but they tie it so much into their identity that they don't want to change their identity. And people are so
well,
fucking,
because you're like, if I'm not a liberal, what if I call
What
myself
am
a-
I?
What am I? And they're like, I'm not a conservative.
well, there's so many words like that. Like, you know, are you the guy that's going to be like, oh, it's I just have a fag in the closet, and you go, what? Oh, a bundle of sticks, and you go, that's what it should mean, and I'm sticking, and you go, well, it's sort of the things change, and words like their meanings change in terms of the context, and language evolves, and you can't just be
except chink in the armor. That no problem with that one.
chink in the armor.
Even
still
still,
works.
that's persistent.
Was that a Asian thing?
No?
Oh, it wasn't.
But it's whatever. It's still chink in the armor.
What was it? That you had some yellow on the armor?
No, it's like you have a like a
Your armor.
No, you have like a crack in it.
Oh, okay.
Like a crack in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
armor.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Cock. I bet you there's some guys that were like proud cocks, and then it became like this, and they go, "I'm actually a cock," and they go, "Oh, like a pussy fucking
Yeah, pussy liberal.
bro,
And you go,
pussy
no.
woke boy," and they
The
go,
funny thing about
no, I have people have sex with my
The actual
wife.
funny thing about the cuck thing is that it actually started as a calling conservatives. It was cuckservatives. It was how cuck started.
Are you sure that's how it started?
Positive, 100%. Yeah. Cuck started as Republicans were calling the people who were like less Republican, who were like kind of too close to the center, cuckservatives.
I don't know if that's true.
Okay, we can have the
Yeah,
fact
people
checker.
can tell us.
I'm almost certain that's where cuck
I
started.
think that came second.
I don't
If
think
I
so.
was to guess, maybe you're right.
No, it was like, well, obviously cuckolding was how it started.
It was kind of the skinhead thing. You know what I mean? Like whenever you remember when the skinheads, there was the skinheads that weren't racist.
Yeah.
So they're sharps.
They were like, yeah, the sharps.
Yeah.
Exactly,
So they go skinheads against racial prejudice. And it was like, that's got to be a tough life.
People hate you. You're, I'm actually quite woke.
I'm literally the opposite.
Yes.
And you go, okay, but really? You know?
Basically, it's like dressing up like like Adolf Hitler and saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover."
No, so just
Yeah.
because the same reason you don't have the mustache.
Like they're trying to impart this giant moral lesson about not judging a book by its cover by
but-
being like
yes.
so good, but looking so horrible. You go, okay,
but you're
weird
constantly
message
doing it.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's not like you can have like a little sign above your head that just kind of like says like not.
Well,
a
things just
racist.
have a lot of connotations, and you know, you constantly have to fucking evolve, and especially when you do something like comedy or public, like when girls go on stage right now, you'll see some be like, "So I'm a feminist," and you can kind of feel half the audience go, "Ugh," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you know, when I met girls when I was younger and I told them I'm in a band, I know that says a certain million things
Yeah, of
to
course.
them.
Yeah.
And if I don't really think with those, if I don't see myself as the way that they're seeing it when I'm saying those things, then you have to like adapt the way that you are fucking describing yourself to actually fit how other people's minds. You can't be like, well, whatever, I'm going to go down with it.
Yeah, Ryan probably had a pretty dark 2 weeks when he stopped saying he was in a band and just said he was a feminist to get pussy. Because Ryan's like 2 weeks, like, you know what, I'm going to change the band thing. I'm a feminist. And it's just like, I don't like this pussy.
There's got to be like a hippie right now that he was the original like hippie who started when he was against war, and his whole thing was he's against war.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's true, but you know what I mean?
There's a lot
guy.
of like Grateful Dead heads and stuff who were obviously like these anti-war people, but now they're like Trump people. Like they kind of,
there was
they
a
got
big
older,
turn in the hippie world.
older and richer. And then they were like, so like, I remember like,
Well,
when I
also
went to
they're conspiracy oriented, and
conspiracy
that's where they ended
oriented
up.
as well. Yeah. Yeah, so that was like a kind of big schism, and because there's like the old school like flower child hippies, and then there's
Right.
there's like one. I mean, there's just kind of
I've seen
I
that
guess,
split
yeah.
very much so. You know, and then, but yeah, there's, you know, then they go, oh, you like to smoke weed and fucking sit on your couch, and you go, no, I don't like war.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I don't know if that actually is the case, but
That's
you
how
can
it
think
started.
There's a bunch of them. That's what I'm saying. So it's so weird that these people, especially when it's smart people fighting that fight, I go, yeah, dude, you lost. Like, I understand fighting for the word when there's like a legitimate 50-50, but once it's over, you know?
Yeah.
You go, listen, that word got co-opted.
Yeah,
Pick a new one.
Yeah, it's changed 100%.
Pick a new word to describe yourself.
I mean, like, I wouldn't have never described myself as a liberal, but I would have like I wouldn't have been like, oh, I don't think I've ever said that, but I probably would have like thought that up until 5 years ago. Then I was like, no, I'm like, you can't
Say that.
Can't be saying that anymore.
You can't be saying
Be saying that anymore. That's horrible. Ugh. Like very quickly, I go, all right, well, that's the days of me ever saying that are long gone.
I don't think I ever said that many things.
I don't think I've said it, but I would have, like, if you made me like gun to my head pick like 10 years ago, it would have been like Obama. I was like, yeah, I'm a
Well,
liberal.
that was when they were legitimately arguing over gay marriage and stuff. You
Exactly.
go, I don't care if
Yeah,
gay people get
yeah,
married.
exactly.
Whatever.
And you're like, yeah, I guess they're like trying to end wars and gay marriage. I'm like, yeah, and legalize. weed.
Yeah,
I'm
that,
like,
whatever.
Yeah, I
sure,
guess I'm
I don't
liberal.
know, whatever.
And
I wouldn't even think.
And then it got into like basically the pronoun thing was like I feel like one of the major things that was like drove
was the
a real
split.
fork into people.
When it was you for you? When was the time that you sort of probably the first time where you're like, oh, things are going crazy? Do you remember?
Probably like, I mean, it would be 2014, 2015, like in that realm.
I remember, yeah, because I remember in that realm.
Somewhere around there, probably more like late 2015.
I remember somewhere in that realm.
Because it was definitely after we finished filming Filth City. Somewhere in between when we...
Where you go, oh, things are getting wild.
Yeah, see, things are getting kind of wacky.
It kind of, it reminded me, because I remember I was pretty into all this stuff when I was in college, like anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it sort of came back, I remember... You know how you do things that are lame? I kind of feel embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
But it was, probably 2014, 15, whatever. I remember when the calling everyone a racist thing started, and I had this theory that I was like, talking my girlfriend at the time's ear off about, that calling everyone a racist will make them more racist. And my theory at the time was that because of how people's psychology works, if you say, okay, if you do this, you're a racist, and they do that, they either need to change their whole way that they do everything or admit that they're a racist. So I was saying that a lot of people are just going to be like, well, I guess I'm a racist then. So that's which I think after a long time people did get there, but I wrote an essay about it.
Yeah.
And I never did anything with it. I wrote to myself essentially an essay about it.
And are you going to read it right
No,
now?
I felt really lame.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, because you wrote an essay.
I wrote, I felt like a dork. Like I remember like even a couple months later being like, what the fuck are you doing, you loser?
That's funny. Yeah, I was like, I get
loser.
it. I mean, I understand it. It was almost like a theory. You were like kind of putting your theory, which I agree to a degree. I think the only thing with
The
that
original
theory,
version of woke racist.
yeah, but it's like it's not like people got more racist. They were just like, fine, call me a racist.
Right. That was what I said.
They became accepting of being called a racist because they knew they weren't. Versus people being like, I'm going to become overtly more racist.
But also, I kind of. Yeah, but my thing was
like it was like me. I don't know. I never considered myself racist. People were like, "Oh, you're like," people would say or whatever, like whatever they would call you, and I'd say, "Fine."
My theory was more that they would be racist. So maybe there's some holes in it, but my theory was more about the idea.
I mean, that did happen too.
Right, it probably did happen too, and one of my reasons for it, I think a lot of it happened because of the identity politics stuff that I didn't necessarily predict in my original original SK. But my thoughts was more about identities, and that once people agree that they're an identity, then they fucking go in further. And I thought that was kind of where I was thinking about, where someone goes, if you switch in your brain that you are that, if I see you in a year, you'll be more that. Just like anything. It's like if someone switches where, oh yeah, I guess I'm like a grad professor now, and you start, and then you go, well, maybe I'll get the fucking jacket with the pads on the shoulders.
For sure. You lean into it. Or someone who's like used to be straight.
I'm gonna go start rolling my own cigarettes. I think anytime someone accepts something, then they lean more into it. I think that was kind of maybe more where I was going
I agree
from.
with that. I mean, the Trumper people know doubt, like a lot of people, I think, who were like hardcore Trumpers were never hardcore political people, where they supported a president.
No,
the
I
way
think
that
they probably had the
supported him.
Red Foreman thing to some degree. The same reason that the same way that people in New York are just like, you don't even think about it. You just know Republican bad. I think a lot of them, it's like, oh, what is he, one of those fucking liberals? Like, it was just that.
Yeah.
Without actually probably being as politically active for some people.
But I think people got like, I think a lot of people who would have never considered, like donating to a political party.
Oh, of course.
Like they did all this stuff, and to the political party they never expected to support.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like
yeah.
like people who were like never. I mean, we had friends who, broke up friendships with people because the person would straight up be like, you know what, this Trump guy, like he's not as bad as people are giving him, saying he is.
It's over and it's done for you.
And then they're like, I can't be friends with this person, and
he doesn't hate the
but
right
they're shocked that they couldn't believe that
Yeah,
they heard
yeah.
these words coming out of someone they knew's mouth.
Well, on the same topic, sort of the lying corporate media
Yes.
on all sides. Fucking, I don't know if you saw this, but Dave Smith did Rogan.
I was just listening to it yesterday.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I didn't listen to the whole thing. I got
So
about
basically,
halfway through.
he did Rogan, and then basically Dave Smith, Joe Rogan said some stuff about masks or whatever.
Well, he said
they were all up in
about
arms
the vaccine. He's like, if I was 20 years old or whatever and I was healthy,
Yeah.
I wouldn't get the vaccine.
And everyone, whatever. And but then they write the article, and so Dave Smith, whose entire deal is being a libertarian, top to bottom, very funny. We did shows with him at the stand the other night.
Yeah,
really
super
good
funny.
comedian.
Yeah, solid.
But he goes, they wrote the article and they go, Joe Rogan was in an interview with Republican comedian Dave Smith, and they said that a few times or whatever. And you go, if you look at his thing, every third word's libertarian.
But they don't accept the idea of like, I've seen this a lot where a lot of people on the left are like, there's no such thing as a libertarian. They're just Republicans.
They're literally a party.
I realize that, but people on the left, I'm not saying the right.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what it is, because they did correct it after he said that.
Oh, okay.
He said they did the double dirty,
Right.
where they released the article and then 2 days later put a small correction at the bottom. Not what we're doing when we make our corrections
No.
bold and small,
Right
bold
off-
and
right
bold
off the
and
top.
something that rhymes with bold. But they go, so I the only two options are they're the biggest liars in fucking history, or they really, really don't get it. And you think it's more that they don't get it.
I think there's...
Or they don't think it's a big lie. They're like, this is basically...
I think they think of like libertarianism as a sect of conservatism versus its own completely different thing. Because I see people
that's what I'm saying, though. But to be fucking a political columnist...
Oh, yeah, ridiculous.
You have to be the dumbest person in the world.
Yes.
I mean, if you're anyone who took like a poli-sci degree or went to fucking school for any sort of social sciences for the most part that was into any of this stuff, they know that it was kind of first year of shit that half the people go full communist and half the people go full libertarian.
Right.
That is the dynamic of like college kid shit. You know what I mean?
100%.
You go full Adam Smith Wealth of Nations, or you go full fucking Karl Marx.
Right.
So to have the littlest knowledge where you don't know the difference between those two things, you have absolutely no business. So I lean more to...
What, do you know what publication this was? That?
Yes, I do. Vice Magazine, Daniel Polishchuk.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I'm shocked.
Well, okay.
Again, Vice Magazine, the people hardcore lefties who work at Vice Magazine, they don't see a difference between a libertarian and a Republican. They're
you
like,
have to
everybody
be
who's not me,
not.
everyone who's not me is a Republican.
Sure, but if you
I'm not saying the right, obviously.
But I understand that for a normal person, but it's
like
you're going to be a political columnist and just go, I don't think that communist and I don't think that communism and
it's Vice. It's like, right, your whole bread and butter is the fact that these guys are fucking inconsistent retards.
It's just my butter.
It's just my butter. You goddamn butter in your bread with these retards.
Also, I wanted to do a shout out to Sure Mike's because they gave me suited the place up.
Speaking about butter,
New
it's
studio
probably sound buttery right now.
Yeah, well, they do sound buttery. Sure hooked it up. They fucking reached out. Okay, but so I found this article that I thought was funny, and it relates to modern love. This is on the New York Times. Polyamory. Should my boyfriend My boyfriend has 2 partners. Should I be his third? And that's the title of the article.
I don't even understand that.
Polyamory.
But my boyfriend has 2.
He's got 2 other girlfriends. Should I be his third?
Why is she already his boy? Why is he already her boyfriend if she's not?
Well,
one
it's
of
not
the
quite
2?
his boyfriend yet, or maybe she's thinking about leaving. I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like logically, she's like
she should say my prospective boyfriend has 2
Yeah,
partners.
my future boyfriend.
I got you. Okay,
or
so
possible boyfriend.
So
Okay,
out of the
gotcha.
gate, I'm just critiquing the article. You're critiquing the grammar. What else is new?
That's what do you mean? That literally doesn't make sense.
But so one of the interesting things I think about all these articles, and other people have talked about this, but connecting it is obviously, the same with the trans stuff where all these things are social contagions.
Contagions.
Contagions? I didn't realize this, but they were saying that suicide places they're not legally allowed to. If a lot of people start committing suicide.
Yeah, Patrick was the first person who ever told me that we talked about it on Fuckonomics. I had no idea.
So they're not allowed on the news to talk about kids having suicide because more do it.
Yeah.
So in Japan, that's why it's because they're epidemics and they're social contagions,
Contagions.
And one of the things about that is the shootings. Yeah, like the shootings, because they're like, if you make it the number one thing in the world,
Yeah.
more keep happening because you wouldn't even have thought if that's an option. You wouldn't even have thought, oh, maybe I should go shoot up a school. If you're a kid that's having a fucking whatever, you're crazy. Or, if you're talking about joining ISIS or whatever, a gang or whatever, the more they make it a thing, the more it's now an option for you.
Absolutely. People are impressionable and
that's what happens with lots of stuff.
yeah.
Anything they becomes the number one issue. There's obviously an uptake in it or whatever. But I think, so New York Times, they're posting this stuff. It's like they can almost predict their own prophecies because they go polyamory's in and they post 9,000 articles about polyamory, and then 2 years later they can do the stats and it's upkick and they go, see, called it.
We have a giant platform. We keep pushing polyamory and
you get to decide.
Yeah.
So it's a thing, but that's why they keep posting these articles is because they release the articles and then other people look at them and they go, oh, how I become a journalist is I go fucking date a guy with 9 boyfriends and then
yeah.
and then write the article. But it's a funny article.
Wait, this is by a journalist.
Well, I define journalist, but she writes.
Is she a staff?
It's an opinion columnist.
Okay, she's an opinion.
I'm not her biographer.
Well, I'm just curious.
Yeah, she's. I looked
she
at
works,
the thing.
She's employed by the New York Times.
Yes, okay. I don't know. Could be freelance.
Freelance. Okay.
A lot of times these articles come out in like 9 different places.
Right.
I've had that before. I mean, we have friends that wrote articles that got picked up other places, and you just end up there.
Yeah, I was looking at the National Post. I sometimes read some Canadian stuff, and there was like a Matt Taibbi.
Who's that?
He's like the guy. He's been on Rogan a bunch. He's in Rolling Stone. He's a writer. He writes some good stuff, articles. He's on Substack now, but he was there, and like you could tell they just licensed it.
That's what happens a lot.
Yeah.
So the articles. This is how it starts. My mind could ration. So it's a woman, and she's grappling with the idea of being the third boyfriend. Mm-hmm. But she's polyamorous, but she's having some second thoughts. My mind could rationalize polyamory, but my heart rebelled. So this is how it starts, which is one of those things where how they accidentally sort of tell the truth without realizing it. It's like out of the gate, they're like, yeah, I'm trying to rationalize this fact that I'm polyamorous, but
this thing I viscerally hate.
Yeah, but for some reason...
It's like literally like, I'm trying to rationalize enjoying eating bugs, but I hate eating bugs.
That's exactly what it is.
Explain it. Oh, my brain's so stupid.
Yeah, I'm trying to... My dumbass body...
Yeah, my dumbass taste buds and body.
After the 9th log of shit, I had to come to a
rational conclusion that I don't like eating shit.
Well, no, she hasn't come to that yet. She's wrestling with all these concepts in her brain. Like, maybe my brain's wrong. Maybe her brain's just been conditioned poorly to not like shit or be the third girlfriend. But yeah, by the end of it, I just respected the guy. But it goes, I'd been wandering the liquor store for some minutes when the clerk approached me and asked if I needed help. I considered presenting my situation. Hello, I would say. I'm wine shopping for dinner with my boyfriend and his 2 partners, whom I'll be meeting for the first time. You wouldn't happen to have a stock of white wine that says, "I'm sorry, please like me." Instead, I said, "I'm just looking."
So she is the new girlfriend.
She's the new girlfriend.
She's officially
the new girlfriend.
It's like instead of meeting the parents in polyamory, she's meeting the new girlfriends.
These guys just must have zero time or anything to do too.
Oh,
okay. How much has your life been busy? And I was actually thinking we might talk about that on that page. It's a little too personal. But the fucking How much has your life been a time crunch because of having a girlfriend right now?
Nightmare right now.
Can you imagine tripling that puppy? And not to mention and triple the problems because all the problems that arise from that.
Well, you got to get really like I'd say the number
Into the
one
lifestyle.
into the lifestyle, but also like really independent. Like you can't have 3 needy girlfriends.
You do have 3 needy girlfriends.
But I'm saying there has to. I've had non-needy girlfriends before.
What percentage of girlfriends aren't needy?
In my life, I've only had 4.
What percentage of your boyfriends were needy?
To one of them wasn't.
So you've had mostly needy girlfriends.
Yeah, 75%.
Okay, and that's it's not necessarily a case study. That could be that they saw a sucker. Yeah. Okay, so in your mid 30s, and you've had one that isn't needy.
Yeah.
Okay, so could you find 3 at the same time that aren't needy?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's the only way that it could work.
Well, I think how it works is it's your full-time fucking job.
It's just
you make fucking 30 grand a year. Like trading stocks or something like that takes you an hour a day.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
No, you got to be in real estate. I feel every person who's poly's got to be real estate.
Yeah, they're real estate
real
agents
estate
maybe, yeah.
Or crypto. Like crypto, you're a crypto investor, poly.
That's
that
an
makes
okay
sense.
job for poly. Maybe bartender, maybe. And she goes, but again, you're still going to have them showing up. But he goes, instead I said, I'm just looking. Also, we all, if you, my tattoo, that's because I'm branded. You're currently going to read about me on the news. She said, dating someone who was already in an established romantic relationship did have its perks. I didn't want to surrender time for my projects or friends, so it was a relief to have a relationship constrained to specific days of the week, Mondays and Thursdays, when Juhana's live-in partner had regular plans. So his name's Juhana, and he lives with his other girlfriend.
Sounds like a dude who would have...
That's a funny part with the meeting them too, because I would just be like, yeah, I mean, listen, if we're going to be dating or whatever, and you're poly, you do your thing. We can do whatever we want, but I'm not meeting them.
Yeah. Well, then you're not poly. You're just...
Yeah, I'm not going to...
This is like an affair.
Have you ever done stuff with a girl that was poly?
No. No.
One time when I was fucking on tour with comedy, this was like 26 probably, met some girl, and then she's like, just so you know, I have a boyfriend and I'm poly and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I was in one city for one night or whatever, right? And then she came out, and then it was an Airbnb, but one where I only rented a room. Early days of Airbnb. Brought the girl back, whole stink, and then the people came in yelling on the door.
I remember this.
You remember that?
It was in Ottawa, right?
Yeah, it was in Ottawa. And it was a whole stink. They tried to kick me out. Yeah. And then the girl, I go, what's the big deal? Blah, blah. And they go, it's 3 a.m. at this point. And I was yelling and screaming too, probably. We're like literally probably in the door next door. And, she's silent, but I'm, you know how I am.
You like Thor's hammer. 3 a.m.
And then, so they came in, and then the girl had to leave in the middle of the night because of the thing. And okay, whatever. And then I was smashed. I woke up being like, okay, that was a lot. Probably gave me a bad Airbnb review.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you have an account still.
And then they go, okay, so on the days that she visits, once every Monday to Thursday, on these days, I would sometimes visit the apartment they shared, an airy flat in the suburb of Helsinki, where the windows overlooked a sea of trees. There, Juhana. Doesn't that sound like a pretty polyamorous guy's name?
Oh, now that I know he's Finnish, yeah, I think that's just...
Oh, Juhana.
I think that just sounds like a...
Juhana would cook for me. This is definitely, that's who you get. A guy named Juhana that's wearing robes.
Like a fancy guy named John, basically.
He's wearing robes. He's cooking for you. He was the type who shopped for flavored salts at specialty stores and sharpened his own knives. Real piece of work, this guy is.
Sounds like a hipster.
Though his partners weren't there, they weren't entirely absent either. We ate our tofu burgers at the table between his live-in partner's self-portraits and his second partner's plans. So
where did they go?
They have to take off for the night. He tells them they've got to hit the
bricks.
Yeah, you got to hit the bricks. By the way, such a serial killer. Between bites, Juhana told me his partners had made fun of him for talking so much about me. They asked if I'm planning to bring you over anytime soon to show you off. Isn't that the most serial killer thing you've ever heard in your life?
And then he made
Imagine you're with
and
some
then
girl.
He did bring her over, but made them
We're
leave.
going to find out. But you're with the girl, and she goes, my 2 other boyfriends would love to meet you. They've been begging. They said I talk about you so much.
You're like, what?
He's in bed with his 2 girls. One arm around each of them. He goes, Marianne is so fucking sick. What? In what scenario? He's with his other two girlfriends,
But
just
like,
being like,
but it's
what?
not
I'm just
like
thinking about
like
Mariana.
being like a poly. As far as I understand it, because I've seen some poly TikTok stuff, and like that comes in my feed. It's not just like you have a foursome every time. It's still
have
one on
schedule.
one.
Yeah, you have the
scheduled. Like it's not just orgies. It's like it seems like if anything, that's
so he's
rare.
with both of the other girls. He's one on one with them.
It's just one on one.
She's
It's
so
like, hey, who
fucking
wants to
sick.
fuck him this time?
You know who
And
you
he's
would
like,
love
I'll do
her.
it.
Yeah. So this guy's all in. He's very that's where you almost have to respect him, that he's like, he's got this racket where he's talking, but this guy's life sounds like hell. And they said one day when he looked up at me from the armchair in my room where he liked to sit and read. Of course, this guy likes to sit and read. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Poetry.
Oh, he's
Only poetry.
And he's reading a poetry book, Steven Seagal style, where they go, "Who wrote that?" And he goes, "I did." I'm reading my own poetry.
He's crying.
And they go, "Where you like to sit and read?" And he said, "Damn, I suppose I'm falling in love with you." I fucking hate romance, dude. Romance stinks.
Romance.
Are you probably a lover boy though? You ever do that stuff?
I mean, for maybe my second and third girlfriends, not the main one. I'm not giving that shit.
Do you ever look at a girl's eyes? Paul's like that. He's very lover boy.
Paul's of course Paul's like that.
He's Mr. Lover
Paul
Boy.
Thompson.
He goes, "I've never felt this way before."
Paul
in my
writes
life."
poems for girls.
Yeah, he
legit writes poems. He like does. Paul probably does like buys a bunch of rose petals and like puts it on the bed and like does all that shit. I don't know.
Lev's probably like that too. He goes, "I've never felt this way by anyone myself. You complete me. We're like two puzzle pieces."
I'm like, I'll pay for dinner.
That's basically yeah.
I just be like,
You don't do any of that lover boy shit.
No.
Well, that's the argument we were having with Lev, because when we were out, he was like, "Don't you hate that like Ryan isn't emotional and all this stuff?" But really, he was trying to rationalize to his girl like that he cries.
Yeah.
He's like, "Right? Can you believe this guy? He's not like a mess."
Yeah, I'm a total.
Well, you have to rationalize that if you were the guy that's all over the place. But he goes, as if his words weren't a chemical catalyst, my visions of our relationship began to metamorphosize from restaurant outings to casual trips to us building a home. So she started, lo and behold, thinking about, what if I dated this guy, but just me? I got a fucking bizarre idea. What if the two of us just dated?
That's a crazy little coup she's trying to do there.
That's what I'm saying. Though he must.
She's
not
the
happy
third
about
one,
it.
and she's like, she already has designs
Right.
of getting rid of the first two.
Imagine taking that shit from your third chick.
Yeah.
It's one thing if your first chick, you go, "I'm taking this bullshit from my third chick. What are we?"
Yeah, what are we? But also, she's like, you need to get rid of the other two. You're like, you're number 3. You are firmly number 3. I don't know where you get off thinking we're getting rid of 1 and 2.
These visions.
If we're getting rid of anybody, it's you. So
well, I think we'll see what happens. The suspense. These visions. But it's just it's going to be such a long way to get back to the girl being like, yeah, it turns out that whole shit doesn't work. These visions, and the other thing too, you forget in these polyamorous situations too, and maybe you, Hannah, is not pulling that off, but it's like, it probably works a lot better if you have 3 chicks that all get $100,000 a year from you. You're paying all of their apartments, and you'll be like, "Hey, you have an apartment."
that's a sugar daddy arrangement, I believe.
Well, is it? Is it a sugar daddy with your girlfriend if you pay for it?
If they all have their own apartment?
No, but she's your girlfriend. She's your actual girlfriend in this scenario.
I guess.
Obviously, it's the same thing, but to be completely honest, most fucking husband and wife relationships are a sugar daddy situation.
Guess. I guess I would say, in a
No, she loves me.
No. I guess I would say in a scenario where it's like you all live under the same roof.
Okay.
But
you wouldn't want that. You'd want them to all have their own separate apartment that you pop into smash.
Ideally, it would maybe be in the same building. Like if you lived in a building and then you just had different units in the same building.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
That'd be solid.
Pictures of them dominated Juana's phone, so he's got all these pictures of him, and he's on his phone like, that's her naked. Sick, right? Sick. It's kind of a lot of. It is a little bit broy. Like this guy's just with the chicks. Like, yo, my other.
I imagine
check out this chick I smashed.
But I
last
imagine
night.
him as like Russell Brand though.
That's what I picture too.
Like it's like it's not. She's not nude.
Wuhana is Russell Brand.
She's not nude in the photo. It's just a close up of her face.
Right, and he's like beautiful, right?
Beautiful. Look
And
at her
you
eyes.
go. No, I'm just talking about her soul. The girl's such a beautiful soul.
Just her aura.
Sometimes one of them would call while he was with me, and after some conversation, he'd lower his phone and she says hello.
Imagine if you're the dude.
I know.
It's like, yeah, Randy says hi. Randy just wanted you to, he just wanted to make sure you fucking
tune her good.
Tune her up good tonight. Tune me up real nice.
Well, this guy's sort of cocky because The other thing
have
too
to be.
is all this shit's so manipulative. That's the same reason why I kind of always have to keep a small circle, is because I don't like manipulating people. That was why I was so tortured with girls when I was younger, because I'm like, I know I kind of don't want to be in this relationship, and she's getting too into it. I was very tortured by this whole idea of like, I don't want to, wrap their whole brain up because I'm so sick, whatever, like clocky 20-year-old shit or whatever, right? You don't get it. She's going to fall in love with me, man. I can't even just date because she's going to fall in love with me. And what was the thing from last week or whatever? I'm whatever.
Hypopoly.
I'm whatever it was. But yeah, so this guy, all these three girls are eventually kind of going to fall in love with Johanna. He's mastered the art. He's basically Casanova. He's mastered the art. At some point, it becomes sociopathic.
I mean, he probably goes and talks to 100 girls at the mall every day.
That's the truth, because he's always auditioning for a fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he says, I've wondered, and because he wouldn't let her be in a relationship, she goes, I wondered what was wrong with me. So she's wondering why Johanna won't be with her. Why had the polyamorous community rephrased the rush of falling in love as new relationship energy? That's what they call it when you've got the new. That's what the old bags call the new fucking beau. They go, it's just new relationship energy. Don't worry.
I mean,
it is
that
true.
That is a thing. Yeah,
it is true.
That's real.
But it's a little bit the old bag. That was started by the guy telling the old wife that the new wife's not going to threat.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I truly inspire so little emotion that he wouldn't care if I dated someone else? I subjected Wuhan to painful conversations and many meltdowns during which I would demand we break up. And if we broke up, and he break up with his partners, and that he would, but often I would say that he shouldn't break up with them in the same conversation. So this is what you're saying, where it's like, this is your third chick being like, of this is coming from your third chick.
The mistress being like, you have to leave your other mistress and your wife. And like, fuck off. Bitch, you're replaceable.
Yeah. It's a very no kids game. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
This does not work by showing up to parent teacher.
Well, I think if you have kids, then you're poly, then you're just like, if they all have kids, then you're just a Mormon.
Well, you're just Mormon.
You're Mormon at that point. If they all have their own kids, you're just.
It
Mormon.
is better to be maybe poly with your kids, because then you go, I can't leave the ball in the first wife because we have the kids. Mm-hmm. You have the ultimate reason why, and I'm poly on top of that. And then they said, well, mainly they are just happy we found one another, he would say about his other wives. But they're getting a little weary now. My other wives are afraid that you might be manipulative. He goes,
I love how she's the manipulative. She comes off as pretty fucking nutso, actually.
Oh, they're all fucking nutso.
But you're like, she has this position of authority because she's writing in the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
So you instantly
true.
take her seriously. You're like, this is a serious person. You're in the New York Times. That is the pinnacle of journalism.
I know, New York fucking
but I'm saying, like, whatever, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was literally, before Trump, that was the pinnacle of being a journalist. Like, I remember Garrett Joyce got a thing in the New York Times. That was
sick.
It was a huge fucking deal. Too, and it was cool. That was massive. It couldn't be bigger. New York Times bestseller. Huge. Now they're just like these lunatics.
Now
lunatics get a fucking editorial page, and they're like, I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah, they go, well,
I'm trying to be some dude's third girlfriend. It's not working out.
Yeah. What happened? I'm in the New York Times. Oh, really? What was your article about? My fucking dude I'm dating's two other chicks that she's fucking think I'm manipulative. Can you believe these people? Everyone needs to know this. Also funny, too, because he goes, he talks it over with his other two girls, because they go, listen, my other girls think you're crazy, because he's been going, like, based on only information that he's told them.
Yeah, based on the facts.
But, of course, it's true, but he's kind of go to the other girls like, the other girl thinks that I should be with just her. What do you guys think about that? And then he goes, listen, ball and chain. I talked it over with my other two balls and chains. She's like, you should be with just me. It's like, I got to talk it over with the other two ball and chains first.
Imagine you're in the middle of like a three, like you're the good guy in the middle. You must be some sort of masochist to want to like.
Well, he is. He's blaming everything on the other ball and chains. He's going to one girl. He's like, I'd love to do that, but my other ball and chains, getting a little manipulative. And they're like, she's manipulative. I go, maybe she is, maybe she isn't. I would also be
I would do
prone to kill myself.
I would do like the Japanese, the harakiri, just the knife in the abdomen.
You see, there was a period early in our relationship where Wuhana, love the name, would question what started to question.
How do you spell that, by the way?
Juhana.
Okay.
Juhana questioned whether he said whether I was even polyamorous at all. Perhaps the intensity of our feelings and single-mindedness meant something. If I were free, he would said, would we really be exclusive? He goes, I'm starting to think that you might not even be polyamorous.
I'm starting to like Juhana.
Isn't that moves though?
Yeah.
That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know. He goes, all these questions are making me think you might not be poly after all.
That's what I was saying. I go, that's such a
But she's
funny
also,
line.
it sounds like she doesn't know she's poly.
I'm starting to suspect that you might not even be fucking poly.
Wait,
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm poly. Well, good, because
have an
your
orgy
Uber's here.
later.
I have another fucking girl coming over. That's what I was saying. I was starting to love this guy. I'm starting to fucking wonder if you're even polyamorous. What's wrong, Johanna? I'm starting to wonder. In the end, the dinner never happened. The tentative date was set, but then he postponed because of a scheduling conflict with his second partner, which I would imagine happens quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
Scheduling. This guy just has like a full-time assistant on his calendar. Weeks later, we spoke. Johanna had come to the conclusion that the disposition for poly or monopoly was something innate, like sexual orientation. Perhaps if it was genetic, and she just didn't have
You
it.
were born poly, is what you're saying, which is
That's what he said
one
to
of
her.
the dumbest things.
He
I've
goes,
ever
listen, I was born this way, and you weren't.
And you weren't.
We just couldn't have worked out because we're too different, he said. I'm polyamorous and you're monoamorous, like the Capulets and the Montagues. How good of an excuse for that is to breaking up with your girl, though. Have you ever tried to use polyamorous? I've dabbled with that excuse when I was young.
To say I'm poly?
I just don't think I'm meant to be with one person. The girl's like, shut the fuck up, Ryan. I go, yeah, you're right. Give it a shot.
Give it a try. Give it a try. No, I don't have the nerve to
Have you ever
fucking-
said you're crazy? Like, have you ever done that one?
What?
The girls,
Call
never
the
with a
girl crazy?
girlfriend, no, but with a girl I was like sort of dating, being like, I'm just too fucked up.
Oh, no.
Like, I'm just, honestly,
I said you're too fucked up.
I'm just a mess. I can't bring in anyone.
That
They're like,
one-
you're not a mess. I go, I'm fucking a mess.
That one girl who said we were in a relationship on the second date or whatever. I literally.
What happened with that?
This was like right. We went on. So remember Chris Allen and Brian.
Yeah, I know
Ward had that show or
Okay.
whatever. Anyways, I just picked her up and we like whatever had a night, and then we went out for dinner the next night or maybe like 2 nights later.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. We're like at Rodney's oyster place. We're eating oysters, and this is I was thinking.
Were
about,
you doing it all sexually? Like,
No. I was thinking about moving, but this is when I was thinking about moving to Vancouver. I was like considering it. This was like 7-8 years ago, and I was like thinking about it, and then and I was like, yeah, I might move to Vancouver, and she's like, cool. She's like, like I'll move with you, and I'm like, no. I'm like, you could also move, but this is our second date, and then she goes, we're in a relationship, right? And I was like, what? And I started laughing. I didn't know how to respond to it because it was so crazy. And I'm slurping
did a spit
oysters.
take?
No, I'm literally I'm so nervous and uncomfortable at this point because I'm like, she's insane that I was like laughing like maniacally. I couldn't hold it in. And I kept saying, I'm laughing, but I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I kept saying, I'm sorry that I'm
I
laughing.
would love if this was on
Dude,
camera.
me too. The first thing I did, she was supposed to come to a show at
He pulled the camera out. Can you say that again?
we were about to go to Vape on the Lake, and then like this is like this literally the second date we've ever been on. The waiter comes, and we're having this whole thing. I'm laughing. The waiter's like, "Can I get you anything?" And she's like, "Sorry." She's like, "We're fighting. Like, just come back in a bit."
She goes, we're fighting.
Insanity, right? The whole thing was nuts. Then she starts bringing up how she's like frozen her eggs. She's like 28 or something. She's like, I froze my eggs. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking never. This is like that classic never stick your dick in crazy. And then she was supposed to come to the show at Vape on the Lake later. And then we went back to her house like after the dinner. She's like, is it cool if I come to the show still? I'm like, no.
You said that.
Yeah, I
You
was
go,
like,
was that on text or in person?
in person? I was
And
like,
you go,
no,
that's not gonna. I don't think
that's not gonna
Nothing
happen.
to do with this whole thing. I just suck at comedy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't need you to add insult to injury on your night
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
It was crazy. And then like I went and just the first thing I think I told Soldo the whole thing.
I'm
I wish I recorded me telling Soldo because it was so fresh exactly what happened.
Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
It wasn't, and she says, it wasn't that I couldn't love multiple partners simultaneously, but it was that I wouldn't. That's what you honestly
Yeah, so you can't.
It's like, it's not that you can't, it's that you won't.
It's not that I can't play in the NBA. I just won't.
It's not that you can't have let me fuck 2 other girls, but still be your actual boyfriend. It's that you won't. Yeah. And unfortunately for not because I thought, and she says, it wasn't because what she thought was ethically wrong or impractical or too difficult. It was because it was sacrilegious to the idea of love I possessed. disciplines of both faith, blah, blah, blah. She kind of goes on and then she does a whole big rationalization of, well, see, I am potentially poly, but I am still poly. At the end of this, she is still poly. Yeah. But it's just that, maybe
not. Kind of poly.
Not this kind of poly.
Maybe I'll be the second girlfriend.
A couple last things before we wrap this puppy up. One of the things so we sort of grazed over this last week where, they're doing all these, tax plans or whatever. And the idea is to get all this free money from the billionaires. Right. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I've been sort of thinking about, because there's always this idea of that people go, well, look at these poor people that are mad that billionaires are getting their money taken away, right? Mm-hmm. They go, some guy who works at a truck stop being like, oh, why are you taking money from billionaires? And then obviously the other side would be the,
Wait, the person in the truck was mad that they're taking money?
No, the people who are like communists or whatever would make a meme of like, they take tax of a billionaire tax, and then truck stop guy's mad because like he thinks it affects him or whatever.
Right. You're like, you think you're getting any of that.
Yeah. No. Sorry. I guess I'm saying this wrong. You think that you're a billionaire.
You think that the billionaire tax
people are mad about taxes that don't affect them, and the mind of
you're not in that tax bracket.
Correct, but it's kind of an interesting thing where when they do these tax things. Well, the first thing is that, and I was kind of thinking, I'm like, it's not that I'm fucking so pro billionaire or whatever, but all of these performative taxes, they don't work.
I mean, the main thing is these crazy taxes. Is you're like, these people don't have cash in their account,
right?
It's all in stock.
And so that's the first part. And I think that David Sachs guy was kind of saying, he was like, this is going to change nothing in my life except I'll do less investments. Mm-hmm. He's like, will I change what investments I do? Probably not. I'll just do less of them. Mm-hmm. So less people's companies and, that kind of thing where who's going to affect? Well, probably the people of color and all that, like whose businesses or, whatever.
Yeah, it'll lower investment.
And that's the whatever. People can have their arguments, but there is a thing, the part that I was been thinking a lot about is it's like this idea that, how a lot of movements just come from venom instead of trying to help? Because all those people that are billionaires or even people that are millionaires are already millionaires and billionaires, right? They're already that. And they have that. A lot of those people have some of that money already tax-free.
Yeah.
They own their house. They're not paying tax on that again.
No.
So all they're saying is like, so everyone that's young shouldn't become that. And it was this weird thing where it's almost like all of the taxes, anyone that's 60 that's been rich their whole life has a lot of money. And if they stopped working tomorrow, a lot of them would be fine. So it's a lot of times there's this thing where it's like 20-year-olds that want to make sure that no other 20-year-olds can get rich.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, because it might hurt a billionaire a tiny bit, let's make it so no one could ever be successful,
Also, it's like billionaires are like, their whole thing is crafty tax stuff.
Right, and if you're starting a business right now, you don't get so you essentially, they got to build their business in a different world. You have to build your business now.
Well, no, I would say that in that sense, like, they're like, well, you're only going to be like, have repercussions of this once you get into that stratosphere.
No, because the corporate tax on businesses and there are other taxes going up as well.
Oh, not the cap gains tax. You're talking
all of them. Yeah. So my point is, it's like, it's people that hate these guys and they're punishing themselves a little bit because it's like all of the taxes on businesses and all the extra stuff on businesses. It's like, so anyone who's trying to get successful right now, it's like hindering them. And anyone that has $1 billion, I mean, sure, it maybe fucks up their investments a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's really hurting people that want to, be successful right now.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. I don't think there's a lot of people who have. And it's not going to pass. Maybe the corporate tax rate.
Well, yeah, it might be a showboat and then it'll go down or whatever. But I'm not even. I guess my point isn't so much to weigh in on whether it's good or bad as much as it's an interesting thing where I go. It's almost like there's a lot of young people that are hurting themselves a lot because it might scratch fucking Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, and I think there's for sure.
Isn't that a lot of the
I
world
agree with
in
that.
general with everything right now? It's people. You know,
I mean, but
because
there are
it'll
a lot of
hurt their enemy a little bit. It's gonna take. They'll fucking. You know,
but I don't
ruin-
think they don't. I don't think they think about that because I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm never gonna.
I'm never gonna be
able to own a house. Like I'm never gonna be able.
Why
to,
not? You can own a house. It's not that, dude. If you put money in Bitcoin, if you put a $10,000 in Bitcoin 5 years ago,
Yeah.
you know what? People can save $10,000 in their 20s with a normal job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they can, but usually these people are not.
But it's not really true that you can't, you know, how many people do we know that are just Joe Blow that have fucking 100 grand in the bank because they got into fucking trading or whatever? Like, it can totally happen.
It can definitely happen.
It's not even
no
unfeasible.
question. Yeah.
But
there's no question about it.
But the real growth is getting more anyways.
Yeah, people would rather, but again, it's like if you have your ideology where it's like, you know, the government should support me and equality, blah, blah, blah. They're like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to have to do this. I just want it to be like, I just want my share of some imaginary pie.
I don't want to do any of that stuff.
But I don't want to do that stuff. Yeah, I just want free money.
I don't want to start a business and get rich.
Yeah, I don't want to start a business and take on risk and do that stuff. I just want.
So yeah, it's like a culture shift, I guess.
Yeah, it's like
between what are the two different. It's like it's almost like America's culturally shifting more towards what Canada was, I guess, and which is obvious, I guess. But that's what it is. It's just straight up. Is your culture geared towards greatness or geared towards?
I mean, this culture obviously is geared towards greatness. And again, with I'll say this: the same thing that everybody said about Trump, where they're like, "Oh, Trump's gonna ruin America." It's like one president can't. It's too big. Too big of a boat.
And
for
I
agree
with you. And that's why I was sort of backtracking a little bit because I don't think my point is. Can you believe this guy putting the tax?
It's more just the people who are like cutting off their nose to spite their face.
That's yeah. It feels like there's a lot of that going on.
I think they just don't think that this is going to this is only a net benefit for them and not a negative in any way.
Yeah, very possible.
That's what I think. I think it's just short-term thinking where they think,
even
like, I'll never have anything. So
even if you think of the people in comedy that were kind of riled up and were about me the last week or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I've given over $100,000 in people's pockets from that city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The amount of money I might have put as much money in comedians' pockets as anyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
And imagine like being there and starting a coup, and I'm like, you see some of these people and you go, I've literally given thousands of dollars to some of your close friends.
Yeah.
And you go, let's stop that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's stop that. Just like, I don't want them to have it just so like I can,
Yeah, people. But that's what happens when your ideology is run by venom. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Oh, there was a little bit of a fucking thing about the Fox thing. You never saw that?
I don't go on Facebook. So
no, I got sent it 1,100 times.
Where was it?
Well, everyone was defending me.
Oh,
but anyway,
where?
I don't want to get too into it because I'm not going to say the names. There's a new group, and I don't even want to say names like that or whatever. Okay. But everyone just kept sending it to me, so eventually I fucking had to look, and it's just the people you thought of it as.
Yeah, it's exactly who I think it would be. So
and whatever. There's a million of those people. But my point is, they just, they're doing what they do and whatever. Mm-hmm. But it all kind of, I was thinking with everything, there's a lot of that where it's people are, cutting the cheese to spite the knees. I believe the old saying goes.
That's how it goes.
Okay, so this has been the Boys Cast. Me and Daniel are both in Virginia this weekend. More dates at ryanlongcomedy.com, and lots of stuff are coming. Lots of more dates are coming. A bunch of people fucking joined the Patreon, so people are hitting me up being like, they like the fucking new format. They like
they're getting some messages as well.
Yeah, it's fucking sick. So I join the fucking family on the Patreon. It's popping off. But other than that, we're still going to be doing the episodes here every week. And thank you for sharing and telling all your friends and everything. Come check us out when we're in your city.